I'm done with this marriage, I said, setting my coffee mug down harder than necessary. I'm going back to Isabel. My wife looked up from her phone, and instead of tears or anger, she just smirked. Actually smirked. Then she nodded slowly, like I'd just told her the weather forecast. Okay, she said simply, going back to scrolling. That wasn't the reaction I expected. Not even close. I'm 33, been married to Francesca for 6 years, and I'd been building up to this moment for weeks. I'd practiced the speech in my car, in the shower, during late-night drives when she thought I was working overtime. I'd anticipated screaming, begging, maybe even some thrown dishes. The smirk and the casual okay made my stomach drop in a way I didn't understand. But I was committed now. I'd already reconnected with Isabel, my ex from college. We'd been talking for 3 months, ever since she'd sent me a friend request on social media. The spark was still there, that electric connection that made me feel alive again. Francesca and I had become roommates who occasionally had awkward sex. With Isabel, I remembered what passion felt like. That's it, I asked. Just okay. Francesca set her phone down and looked at me with those dark eyes that used to make me nervous in the best way. Now they just looked amused. What do you want me to say? She asked. You've clearly made up your mind. You've been texting her for months. Yes, I know about that. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you smiling at your phone at 2 in the morning? My face went hot. If you knew, why didn't you say anything? Because I wanted to see how far you'd actually go. She stood up, stretching like a cat. And now I know. You can pack your things this weekend. I'll stay at my sister's place to make it easier. This was wrong. All wrong. Where was the fight? Where was the emotion? Francesca, save it, she said, not unkindly. Seriously, we both know this has been over for a while. I'm just surprised you had the guts to actually say it out loud. She walked past me toward the bedroom, and I caught a whiff of her perfume. The same one she wore on our wedding day. For a second, just a second, I felt something twist in my chest. But then I thought of Isabel's laugh, the way she looked at me like I was the only person in the room, and I pushed the feeling down. The next morning, Francesca was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Take whatever you want. I don't care anymore. I called Isabel immediately. She took it well. Isabel sounded almost disappointed. That's good, I guess. Better than well. She practically pushed me out the door. I was pacing my living room now. I can move in with you by the weekend. There was a pause. A long one. About that, Isabel said slowly. I think we should pump the brakes a little. You're still technically married. We should wait until the divorce is finalized before making any big moves. What? But you said. I know what I said. But that was hypothetical. Now it's real, and I need some time to process this. It's a big step. We talked for another 20 minutes, her words getting progressively more distant, more careful. By the time we hung up, I had a knot in my stomach the size of a basketball. But it was fine. She just needed time. We'd been apart for 8 years. A few more weeks wouldn't matter. I threw myself into packing, into planning my new life. I barely noticed that Francesca hadn't come home that night. Or the next one. She was probably staying with her sister, Juliana, like she said she would. On the third day, my phone rang at 6 in the morning. Juliana's name flashed on the screen. Did you know? She practically screamed before I could even say hello. Did you fucking know? Know what? Juliana, calm down. My brother's engagement. To Isabel. You're Isabel. The one you're supposedly leaving my sister for. The room tilted. What are you talking about? Marco, she shouted. My brother Marco is engaged to a woman named Isabel Ferretti. They've been together for 8 months. The engagement party is next weekend. Francesca just told me that's your ex. The one you've been sneaking around with. I couldn't breathe. Isabel Ferretti. 8 months. Engaged to Marco. Marco, who I'd met exactly twice at family functions. Marco, who lived in Seattle and worked in tech. Marco, who Francesca's family was all flying out to visit next month for some big celebration that I declined to attend because I'd be too busy with work. That's impossible, I said. We've been talking for 3 months. She never mentioned. 3 months. Juliana's laugh was sharp and humorless. They got engaged 3.5 months ago. So either you're terrible at math, or you're a complete fucking idiot. She hung up. I opened my messages with Isabel. Scrolled through every conversation. She'd never mentioned a boyfriend. Never mentioned Marco. Never mentioned Seattle. Even though when I asked where she was living these days, she'd said around, here and there, traveling for work mostly. I'd been so focused on the fantasy of us, on the nostalgia of what we used to have, that I never asked the right questions. I called her. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. On the fifth call, she answered. Stop calling, she said quietly. Please. You're engaged to Marco? Francesca's brother. I didn't know he was her brother, Isabel said. Not at first. We met at a conference in Denver. Started dating. By the time I figured out the connection, we were already serious. I didn't know what to do. So you just what? Kept talking to me? Led me on. You led yourself on. Her voice cracked. You messaged me first. You started talking about how unhappy you were. You're the one who said you wanted to leave your wife. I never asked you to do that. You never told me to stop. Because it was nice, she shouted. Okay. It was nice to feel wanted by someone else for a change. Marco's great, but he's always working, always busy. You made me feel special, but I never thought you'd actually blow up your marriage over some late-night texts. You said you still had feelings for me. I do. I did. I don't know. She was crying now. It's complicated. But I love Marco. I'm marrying Marco. What we had it was just nostalgia. You know that, right? We were kids in college. That wasn't real life. And this is me hanging up, she said. I'm sorry. I really am. But you need to stop calling me. For everyone's sake. The line went dead. I sat on the couch Francesca and I had picked out together 4 years ago after spending an entire Saturday arguing about fabric swatches, and stared at nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from Francesca. Juliana told me. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. She was sorry. She was sorry that I found out the woman I was leaving her for was engaged to her brother. The absurdity almost made me laugh. I typed back, can we talk? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Sure. I'm at my apartment now. You can come by if you want. Her apartment? I drove across town to an address I didn't recognize. A nice building, nicer than our place. Francesca answered the door in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair in a messy bun. She looked comfortable. She looked good. You got an apartment? I asked stupidly. 2 months ago, she said, stepping aside to let me in. Right around the time you started texting Isabel constantly. The place was small but beautiful. Hardwood floors, big windows, plants everywhere. There were pictures on the walls, her family, her friends, a few of her solo travels from before we met. None of us together. I don't understand, I said. Francesca sat down on her couch, tucking her legs under her. What's not to understand? Our marriage was over. You were checked out. I started preparing for the inevitable. Why didn't you just leave me? Because I wanted you to be the one to say it. She looked at me steadily. I needed you to admit it. To stop pretending. We were both miserable, but you kept acting like everything was fine, like we just needed to work on things. I was tired of the limbo. So you just waited? I waited, she confirmed. And I watched you fall back into your little college romance fantasy. Honestly, when Juliana called me last week to tell me Marco was engaged to someone named Isabel, I had a feeling. The universe has a sick sense of humor sometimes. You knew last week? I knew last week, she said. And I didn't tell you because it wasn't my place. Isabel made her choice. You were making yours. I figured you'd find out eventually. I sat down without being invited, my legs giving out. I fucked up. Yeah, Francesca said simply. You did. I don't know what I was thinking. You were thinking about the past. About who you used to be. About some version of yourself that didn't have a mortgage and a boring marriage and a regular bedtime. She wasn't angry. She sounded almost sympathetic. I get it. I really do. You're not the first person to chase a ghost. Can we? I swallowed hard. Can we fix this? Francesca was quiet for a long time. She got up, went to the kitchen, came back with 2 glasses of water. She handed me one and sat back down, this time farther away. No, she said finally. We can't. Francesca, listen to me. Her voice was firm now. Even if Isabel had been available, even if she'd been everything you remembered, we still would have ended up here. Because the problem wasn't that you wanted her. The problem is that you stopped wanting us. I can want us again, I said desperately. I can try harder. We can go to counseling. We can. I don't want to be someone you have to try hard for, she interrupted. I don't want to be the consolation prize when your fantasy falls through. I deserve better than that. She was right. I knew she was right. But I couldn't just let go. I love you, I said, and even as the words came out, they felt true. How had I forgotten that? You love the idea of not being alone, Francesca corrected gently. You love the stability I represent. But you don't love me the way I need to be loved. You haven't for a long time. How do you need to be loved? She smiled sadly. Like I'm someone's first choice. not their safe choice. That hit me harder than anything else she'd said, because she was absolutely right. I'd taken her for granted, treated her like a sure thing while I chased the thrill of something new. Or something old, repackaged as new. I'm sorry, I whispered. I know, she said, and I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean we go back. It just means I'm not carrying anger into my next chapter. There's someone else? The question came out sharper than I intended. Francesca raised an eyebrow. That's really none of your business anymore. But no, there's no one else. I'm just learning to be happy alone. Turns out I'm pretty good at it. I looked around her apartment again, really seeing it this time. The bookshelf full of novels she'd always wanted to read. The easel in the corner with a half-finished painting. The guitar case propped against the wall. You're painting again, I said, and playing guitar, and learning Italian, and taking a pottery class on Thursday nights. She smiled, and it was genuine. I forgot how much I liked doing things just for me. When did we stop doing things together? About 2 years ago. Maybe longer. We got comfortable. Then we got lazy. Then we got strangers living in the same house. She set her water glass down. You know what the worst part was? I kept waiting for you to notice. To ask me about my day and actually listen to the answer. To suggest we go somewhere, do something, be anything other than two people passing each other in the hallway. But you never did. You never said anything either. You're right, she agreed. I didn't. I was hoping you'd care enough to figure it out on your own. That was stupid of me. I should have used my words like an adult. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, I could hear traffic, a dog barking, life continuing on like my world wasn't imploding. What happens now? I asked. You sign the divorce papers when my lawyer sends them. You move on. You figure out who you are when you're not trying to recapture your 20s. She stood up, a clear signal that this conversation was ending. And maybe next time, you actually work on a relationship before you decide to jump ship. I stood too, because there was nothing left to say. At the door, I turned back. For what it's worth, you deserved better than me. I know, Francesca said, not unkindly. But thanks for finally saying it out loud. I drove home, to the house that was about to be just hers, in a daze. The papers arrived 3 days later. I signed them in my car outside a convenience store, using the dashboard as a desk, and mailed them back immediately. Isabel blocked me on everything. I heard through a mutual friend that her wedding to Marco was beautiful. Intimate ceremony in Seattle, very romantic. Juliana didn't speak to me for 6 months, and when she finally did, it was just to tell me I was an idiot. I didn't disagree. Francesca and I went through the divorce quickly, quietly. She kept the house. I didn't fight it. She'd already been living separately anyway, and I moved into a studio apartment that smelled like the previous tenant's cigarettes and regret. The thing about blowing up your life is that you have to live in the aftermath. You don't get to skip to the part where you've learned your lesson and grown as a person. You have to sit in the wreckage and really feel it. I felt it. God, did I feel it. I'd see couples at the grocery store and wonder if they were taking each other for granted. I'd hear a song that Francesca used to sing in the shower and have to pull over because I couldn't see through the tears. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning reaching for someone who was never coming back. About 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Francesca at a coffee shop. She was with a guy, tall, bearded, laughing at something she'd said. She looked radiant, genuinely happy in a way I couldn't remember seeing in years. She saw me too, waved, came over. Hey, she said. How are you? Good. Better. Working on it. I nodded toward her companion. New friend. Something like that. She smiled, and it didn't feel cruel. Just honest. His name's Alessandro. We met at my pottery class. Pottery guy? Makes sense. I tried to smile back. You look happy. I am, she said simply. You look tired. Yeah, well, turns out starting over at 33 is harder than I thought. It gets easier, she said. Eventually. Alessandro called her name, holding up 2 coffee cups. I should go, Francesca said. But hey, take care of yourself, okay? Actually take care of yourself. I will. You too. I watched her walk back to him, watched him hand her a cup and kiss her forehead, watched them leave together. And instead of jealousy or regret, I just felt tired. So tired. But also, maybe just a little bit hopeful. If she could rebuild, maybe I could too. I'm still working on it. Some days are better than others. I got a therapist. I stopped checking Isabel's social media, actually deleted all my accounts for a while. I started going to the gym, not because I was trying to get revenge hot or whatever, but because I needed something to do with my hands that wasn't texting people who didn't want to hear from me. I joined a book club. I'm the only guy. It's mostly retired women and a couple of people my age. We meet every other Tuesday and argue about literature over cheap wine. It's nice. It's normal. It's the kind of thing I would have rolled my eyes at a year ago. I think about Francesca sometimes. About the moment she smirked and said, "Okay," when I told her I was leaving. I understand it now. She'd already left, emotionally, months before. She was just waiting for me to catch up. The last time I drove past our old house, there was a different car in the driveway. She'd sold it, moved on completely. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to figure out who I am when I'm not defined by who I used to be or who I'm trying to get back to. I guess that's the lesson, if there is one. You can't go back. You can only go forward. And sometimes forward means sitting in a studio apartment that smells like cigarettes, eating takeout alone, and slowly, painfully, learning to be okay with yourself. It's not the ending I planned. But then again, my plans haven't exactly worked out lately. Maybe that's okay too.